But for now, we're going to go on to our special guest. We have the former press relations secretary to the White House under Bill Clinton and under George W. Bush, Mr. Robert Weiner. And he's going to come up and talk to us about, his past. He was also a former Young Democrat. I guess he could tell you that himself. But also working in politics. And I believe he has an opportunity for people in this room as well. So go ahead and take the floor.
That Bush thing you just mentioned, that was barely true at the end of the Clinton era. I helped in the transition and hid under my desk while he was doing tax breaks for the rich, thinking that's really all he's going to do, and that is all he did was tax breaks for the rich.
Wikipedia got you wrong, man.
Yeah. But the fact that I worked for Bush means I can say I'm bipartisan. But my lifeblood, and I was a Clinton appointee. I was a press secretary in the Clinton administration. But let me just do this in something of an organized way. Nakia Gladden is an intern with me right now and the author of an article that's out this week in the Michigan Chronicle, the #1 African-American newspaper in America 6 times in the last 12 years. And the title of it is Benghazi, IRS, and Leaks, What About Jobs? And the fact that that issue is being forgotten, and that's what the American people really care about. So really, congratulations to Nakia for getting that published, and it became a big national distribution. So that was terrific. But what I want to do is, guys, if we can hand out, so before I get too splattered here, there's several folders. If you can hand out to everybody one of each of 4 folders, that's actually what I want to do, okay? So, okay. All right, so if some folks can help me here, and while you're doing this, I can keep talking. Alicia told me and Larry told me I've got 15 minutes, so here we go. We're going to do this all real quick. Everybody gets one of everything in all 4 folders, okay? Okay, and that includes the head table.
Oh, they're all taken care of.
Okay. So, what a great meeting, Larry. And by the way, that culture and that music and all of that, it's really just an excuse. This is Larry's birthday party tonight. And there's a number of people. I was in the Young Democrats with Steny Hoyer when we were all a lot younger. How many Steny Hoyer staffers, campaign, and office are here? There's a number of you. And Steny's Bull Roast, as they say, is coming June 14th. That is a great opportunity. If you want to network with all the VIPs in the country and in Maryland, they all come to Steny's Bull Roast because he's the #2 Democrat in the entire Congress. So by all means, and I saw that it's $15 for students, and then there's stuff that goes up to $35 and $50, and if you want to sponsor, it's more than that. So volunteer, it's free. There you go. If you want to volunteer, and it's Ben, right? So see Ben if you want to volunteer at it, and by all means go. It is a fantastic opportunity to be with the top people in the country and in Maryland at Steny's Bull Roast at 6 to 8 on June 14th. Okay, and I've been there a number of times. It's really great. It's a barbecue, food all over the place. So, all right. So, what a great executive board. I went and looked at it. Terrific picture of all you guys that you have online. And now let's see who's here from there. You got Larry, and then Vice President Dante.
Good evening.
Yeah, and then you got Felicia. Where's Felicia there? Who told me she's going to signal me when I have 3, 2, and 1 minutes left. And then Vice President of the membership is Eva Lewis here? No, because you're recruiting a membership person. Okay, so somebody needs to do that. That's a critical job. Moriel, where are you? That was a great presentation. Moriel and I are sort of like buds here because that's been my life, is in communications. So Patrick Gallagher, is he here? Okay, he's coming later, that's right. And Christian, I met you. Christian Gant. There you go, way in the back. And Denora, where's Denora? All right, Denora, you spoke. And then Rick Gross. And so everybody's all famous on the website. Terrific. Okay, so my background. I'm what I guess you call a national democratic strategist, and I'm a columnist in major papers, and that's what my whole operation is writing columns, opinion columns, pushing the issues in major papers. So I mentioned the Michigan Chronicle that Nakia did. We also had an article, just to give you a flavor, in the Tallahassee Democrat. Cutting Medicare will actually cost the country money because you're driving people into poverty. As much as you want to cut Medicare, if you do that, you're going to force people into poverty and hurt the country. Trickle-down economics doesn't work in the Miami Herald that we had, and how, in fact, if you do trickle-down economics, you stop the productivity of the country, and yet that's been the philosophy of the Republicans, is to give tax breaks to the rich, tax breaks to the... It doesn't work. It actually is counterproductive. It stops the productivity. It's exactly the reverse. I gave the lecture to the London School of Economics right after the election on the economic impact and how Romney would have been a disaster, and at least with Obama, he's pushing the egalitarian approach so that the middle class can prosper and the country can be much better off. You can't sequester cancer. You know, they sequester. They want to cut everything. Cancer research has caused a 30% improvement in mortality. My wife is a cancer researcher, so I got to write this kind of thing. And it's caused a 30% improvement in mortality in the last 30 years. We're cutting off our nose to spite our face with the sequester. We're stopping the research that has made us healthy. Debate debacle. I wrote the piece that I actually have reaches into the Washington Times, which is a Republican paper. Remember I told you bipartisanship works, but on substance, they had me write the lead op-ed that Obama can come back after his first horrible, asleep debate debacle, and how with sound bites and forced approach and aggressiveness, he can wipe Romney out in the next two debates. That's exactly what he did. And the Washington Times printed that as the lead op-ed. That was... all of these, by the way, are with interns. The Congress Voting Rights Act, the powers in the Constitution. The Supreme Court might try to knock it down, but I talked to Ginsburg and Newt Gingrich both at the Kennedy Center. I'll talk to people wherever they are and get quotes from them. And Ginsburg told me it's in the 14th and 15th Amendment. It's right there that the power of the Voting Rights Act is in the Constitution. And we should be doing more, not less, for these states that are doing voter suppression. So that's a big op-ed that we had that was picked up all over and syndicated nationally. Hillary Clinton's Middle East peace save. Everybody forgot that right before she left office, she ran around all over, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. We'd have an even more horrendous mess right now in the Middle East. They talk about Syria if it wasn't for what she did, besides which I love her, and so I'm trying to help her. So, all right, so that's that. The fiscal cliff. I wrote a piece in Roll Call. Got to do sugar approaches. And I said, if Boehner deals on the fiscal cliff, he will be a statesman. And he did. He actually dealt on the fiscal cliff so the country wouldn't go under right at the end of the year, if you remember. So I actually wrote a piece to give him more incentive, and he's actually tried to do a few things because of it. Boehner puts the country before politics by dealing on the fiscal cliff and getting some of his Republicans to vote for the country going forward instead of going over the cliff. So we put that right in the Washington Times. Again, lead op-ed in the Washington Times. My Democratic friends like Jim Clyburn, they loved it because it's an incentive to Boehner to govern instead of to just completely obstruct everything all the time. Biggest myth going that it's not. It's paid for by the contributions that people have put into it. And even in 30 years, if the country falls to pot, it'll only be like about 20% unsolvent, and that can be done with 1/3 of the cost of the Iraq War every year. So it is the biggest myth to try to steal money from Social Security so that Wall Street can make the money off privatization. That's what's really going on, and it is an outrage. And so we put that out. That was in the Palm Beach Post. I've had that in the Miami Herald. Okay, so those are the kinds of things we do now. When I was in Congress, I worked for Claude Pepper, who you've never heard of, but we brought in Colonel Sanders and abolished mandatory retirement, showing old people can be effective. No age-based discrimination. I worked for John Conyers, and still am very close to John Conyers. Nakia came in with me, and we met with him and spent an hour with him a couple of days ago. He's the dean of the Congressional Black Caucus, and he's the leader of the Judiciary Committee. What a terrific guy. And Charlie Rangel I worked for Conyers for 6 years, Rangel for 6 years when I was the spokesman for the Narcotics Committee. I was the legislative assistant to Ed Koch when he was mayor, before he was mayor, and he was in Congress. And I worked for Ted Kennedy for 2 years, once in his Senate campaign, once in his presidential campaign, to try to help him in a strategic way. So I've had a lot of fun, but I'm having so much fun now. Here are some pictures. I think we're, about 8 minutes into it, Felicia? So, all right, so... Okay, so here's a picture with Conyers when I set up just a few years for him his leadership pack. And there are interns, all the interns, that's where we're headed, by the way, with this. All the interns that were with Conyers and part of our operation. This is when I was covering, because I'm cleared now because of our op-eds and our radio TV. I'm a piñata on Fox Morning News. If you've probably seen me a couple times. I've been on about 10 times, debating the Republicans. And so I get to cover Obama's White House as I'm cleared in all the time, his news conferences. And here's when he had Karzai, and there I am, and there's Hillary Clinton over there. This is Obama's first news conference. There I am with him. There's the president. It's not as good as what you had up on the screen, but here's Hillary Clinton. When Ken Starr was harassing, how many people have heard of Ken Starr in this room? Probably everybody in this room. You're educated. That's great. When he was harassing Clinton, I was subpoenaed, and I went out in the courthouse steps, and I said, "This is Big Brother at its worst." And it was the lead on Brokaw Jennings that night. I was actually the lead, and Jay Leno did a joke. Here's a picture with Jay Leno that night saying, "Only in the Clinton oral sex case would there be a Weiner testifying." And then he said, "What was Dick Armey not available?" And then here's Bob Weiner leaving the courthouse, and then he had the Wienermobile coming from out of the garage. And then he called me up, and I told him, "You won't believe it, but I have a cousin named Dick Weiner." He said, "You're kidding." So he invited me onto the set, and then we had some fun. We took some pictures. Okay. Here's way back when I was in grad school at UMass. I had John Kerry over at my house for a party while his career was on the way up. Here's, when I was on Fox Morning News, Jon Stewart used me, did about 3 minutes with me, and because I was on Fox ticking off the provisions of the health care bill, and Fox was trying to cut me off, and he said, "Weiner, what part of we don't want our listeners, our viewers to know what's in the bill, don't you understand?" So Stewart made a big joke out of it, and that's on my website. If you go click on my website, that's actually, obviously I put that up first. You click on it, you'll see it right away. Let's see, what else? With Bill Clinton at his house with my wife. And the last picture with Jesse Jackson when we were doing just about a year ago what we call a radio row after the Supreme Court, it's 2 years ago, after the Supreme Court did the ruling on the health care case. So where does this all take us? You've all got now the 2 job opportunities that we have, which are, and I'm in Prince George's County. In Accokeek, Maryland is the home office that Nakia comes to, and also we work out of the National Press Club, and we work out of the Democratic National Headquarters. 3 places that we work out of. The base is in Accokeek. It's about, 35-minute drive it took me from here to there. So you need a car, but we are looking, Shona has said she wants to do it, to be an intern and help write these op-eds that we do so that we can have impact in all the major newspapers across the country. We want interns for 2 things. Number 1 is to write our op-eds, to help with a whole list of op-eds. You can imagine all the different subjects, which are somewhere splattered in here, that we have. Here's op-eds we've done. Here's op-eds we want to do on war contractors. The wars aren't really ending in Afghanistan and Iraq. The value of public service. Torture update. Chelsea, let's see, the VA backlog. How stupid is it that they're not hiring temps to just get the backlog done, over with, and do an emergency appropriation to Congress to get it done? That's an obvious op-ed. China cheating, drones. Actually, I like drones. I'm a liberal, but I like drones because they stop us from sending people to get killed in wars, our people. Realistic congressional measuring sticks. Let's see, voter suppression. Oil prices, they always are forced up by the oil companies until people protest. Social Security isn't welfare. Super PACs, money and power. Global climate. The House budget, dangerous nukes on U.S. soil, the overreach of the Government Operations Committee. Those are just some of the subjects. Latin America, how do we have a more realistic approach? Hugo Chavez, we dumped on him, but he was elected by his people, and now are we going to keep doing that kind of thing, or are we going to do the right kind of working with Latin America? An inside look at the IRS's approval process. That brings us to the second job opportunity, which is I just got approval for a 501c3 while they're talking about all the Republicans and getting dumped on and not and targeted for the Tea Party people. We got challenged also, but they finally approved us. Same thing. They asked 6 questions. But what I got approval for is a nonprofit foundation to bring in college and related age journalists to write op-eds in major papers as public information. What, you mentioned Bush, nonpartisan, right? So the ones that are issue-based and not partisan, those are all qualified, and I talked to IRS about it, and they're all qualified to be op-eds. Even though we're pushing issues in a progressive way, they're nonpartisan if they're issue-based and not specific candidate-oriented. So we now have that approval. What I'm going to do is what CNN suggested. They said that your fundraiser can get 10% of the money you make. Podesta's group makes millions, and they get a lot of, and they have a whole operation going. When we get our funding in, we will create an office in the National Press Building, and we'll have a bigger operation than what's in the basement of our house and splattering around to the National Press Club and the Democratic National Headquarters. So it's really a little dream that this IRS approval makes possible, and we want somebody, if one of you is good in that kind of logistics, or 2 of you, I'd love to do that. And then we've got the list. What I've got is I've got the list of all of Obama's major contributors, 30 pages of them with addresses and all the PACs and everything. So we have the list to work with, and then we're going to do what? We're going to have a very successful process to do that and see if we can build and expand this little dream that we have. So that's it, basically in a nutshell, is 2 openings for op-ed writer and fundraiser, and we can take a couple people in each, and I'm glad you want to do it, and anyone else. So I guess in your breakout session, maybe I can talk to the folks, and people come over and talk to me, and we'll get you sending resumes and references and all those kinds of things. But I was so excited about coming to the Prince George Young Democrats. I mean, I couldn't believe when Nakia told me that this is an organization that is real, and it is. Look at this turnout that you have tonight. And that I'm in Prince George's County, but I'm national based, and now you know the kinds of things that we do. I was so excited to be able to come here and tell you a little bit about what we're doing, about the excitement of that I've always enjoyed in politics, in my political career, and in the White House, in Congress, and I've run the press room for Obama in the last 2 Democratic conventions, including this last one. We brought a whole team of people to help do that, the daily press briefing room. We had 17 people, floor passes, convention hall passes for everybody. They had me do that. That was a lot of fun. Okay, so I mean, those are the kinds of things that we're involved with, and we'd love to have your help. And I guess I'm done. Am I done, Nakia? Did I miss anything?
I think you've covered every base possible.
Okay, so all right, guys. Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Yeah.